Okay, thank you to those of you who have already watched my non-spoiler review and making it one of the most popular videos of the year. So thank you all to out there. So now that you've seen that video, it's time to get into some spoilers. But if you haven't seen my spoiler-free review, don't worry, I've left that in the description box below, so you're completely covered. But if you already have seen the movie, well, let's talk some spoilers. Okay, this is something a little new for me. I did already do a spoiler talk video for The Amazing Spider-Man 2 back in 2014, and I don't usually do these kind of videos, but I felt like with that movie, even though The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is absolutely terrible, I felt that Batman v Superman needed to be talked about in full detail rather than the usual non-spoiler reviews that I do here on this channel. I'm not going to do too much editing here, so if I do lose my place or fumble up my words, you guys get to see it in all its unedited glory. We'll see how this goes. Okay, so I want to get this first out of the way. My first real negative with this movie was Bruce Wayne's parents' murder. We have seen this so many times now that I personally feel we did not need to see it again. We know what happened to Bruce Wayne's parents. Hell, I feel like I was practically there. But I did like the fact that they still included the funeral scene and when Bruce falls into the cave. I felt that should have been left in, and that was a good step in the right direction, but there was no need to show the actual murder of the parents, but just my opinion. And we see that Lois Lane is given a lot more to do here, especially with, you know, tracking a bullet that she finds in the desert, you know, and she tracks it all the way to Washington and tries to get the senator to help her with it. And, you know, you really get a feel a bit more for what this version of Lois Lane is like, and it's a tough modern woman. And for me personally, that makes a real refreshing change from the Lois Lanes of the past. And we see, as I said in my non-spoiler review, we see here that Superman is really dealing with the fact that, you know, is he really needed? And you really get to see that you really get to see that done so well here, as he's really questioning his moral dilemma, but it's thanks to Lois that she reminds him that, you know, the S actually means something, and he should continue doing what he does. Now, as for Ben Affleck as Batman, I already said how awesome he is in the role, and he really did surprise me, considering I was one of the people who actually was against the casting when it was first announced. But then as the trailers wore on, he slowly grew on me, and then when I finally saw him in the movie, it was like, this guy is Batman. I have no problems with it whatsoever. But some of the problems that people might have with this is that Batman's moral code is just completely thrown out the window, and he's dropping bodies left, right and centre, particularly in a nightmare sequence. And, you know, there's parts of the movie where, you know, he is just killing people. Like, you know, it's like, oh, I don't care anymore, I'm just gonna murder them straight out. Way to go there. And people were making such a big fuss about Superman in Man of Steel when he killed General Zod. And yet no one seemed to have really complained about Batman. It just escapes me that. And also, the actual fight itself between Batman and Superman, while it is really good, it's over way too quickly. And, you know, it seems that, you know, they're ready to go head to head, and the reasons why they're fighting do seem a bit far-fetched, because, you know, Superman does try and go to Gotham and convince Bruce that, you know, they are being set up. Then he's like, oh, I don't want to hear about it, I'm just going to take you on right now. Until he hears the name Martha, because Martha Kent is kidnapped by Lex Luthor and his cronies, if you want to use that word. So you know, that all of a sudden seems to bring them together, and it's like, oh, we're friends now, you know, because your mother shares the same name as mine did. So that seems to come out of nowhere. Now let's get the big elephant in the room out of the room, and that is the whole Doomsday thing. Does it look ridiculous? Yes. Was the actual fight between the three of them, but especially between Superman and Doomsday, worth seeing? Oh, definitely. Considering I have been a fan of this storyline since I was 5 years old. This was the very first comic that I ever owned, The Death of Superman. And I think you know where I'm going with this. I didn't mind this personally because, again, like I said, I've been waiting since I was 5 years old to see this storyline brought to life. And I felt satisfied with the way it was handled here. Could I have done without Batman and Wonder Woman being there? Actually, I felt that they were a great asset to the story. Personally. And, you know, the way how Superman's death is handled is really interesting because, yeah, throughout the movie, we see that, you know, not everyone is happy to see Superman. And particularly in the meeting after there's a bombing that happens right in the middle of the movie, which is obviously caused by Lex Luthor, but the blame bizarrely goes to Superman just because he is the last one standing in that room. The oldest lesson here is that people don't really appreciate something until it's actually gone. And it's really true to the fact here because after Superman is killed by Doomsday, everyone's all of a sudden seems to be like, wow, he actually did try and save us. And that is really shown in the funeral scene for Superman. I'll get into the Clark Kent one in a minute. And you really feel that, you know, they don't really know how to bury him except as a soldier. Now, let's get to the next part of the elephant in the room. I already touched on this in my non-spoiler review, but the Justice League cameos. Oh my goodness, I liked the Flash one. That one I did enjoy. I thought that was pretty cool. But, you know, for them to be set up through an email? Are you serious? You know, you could have easily had them elsewhere in the movie. Granted, the Flash's cameo, which was a bit more elaborated on with a little Flashpoint paradox section, was pretty cool when he said, Lois is the key! I felt that was pretty well handled. But, I mean, the Aquaman cameo, I mean, a lot of people here on YouTube have already talked about this, but, you know, all he literally did was swim out of a wrecked ship and then break the sound barrier. It's like, there's your Aquaman cameo. So, and another cameo I found interesting was when Miles Bennett Dyson from Terminator 2 was creating Cyborg, and you could see that he was really getting frustrated with it. But there was like one point, and I know another YouTuber on here has already talked about this, but I was waiting for him to go like he did in Terminator 2. So, okay, so let's flip back to Clark Kent's funeral and the way that is handled. I do think it's a nice touch, but it's a bit poorly edited between that and Lex Luthor's eventual imprisonment. I'll get to that in a second about the whole Lex Luthor thing, don't you worry. But I told you I'd lose my place somewhere, and here it is. But how can I put this? The funeral scene for Clark, really well handled, and it's really interesting the way how Bruce is the one that says, we need to find these people because they are going to have to fight because something is coming. And us as the audience knows what's coming. But there was no need to intercut that with Batman interrogating Alexander Luthor. Now, Alexander Luthor. I fully realise that he is not playing the traditional Lex Luthor. And this is addressed in the movie because he talks a lot about his father, who was the real Lex Luthor. Obviously, this is Alexander, who is a bit more zany and weird compared to Lex Luthor Sr., but Jesse Eisenberg still, for some bizarre reason, decided to play this as the Joker. And that I don't quite understand personally, but I digress. Am I hoping to see a bit more of a serious portrayal in Justice League? Definitely. But rumours are that we're going to get Darkseid as the main villain, and I'm all for that. Now, a lot of people have been saying, should Zack Snyder direct Justice League? I'm half and half on the subject. I do think that it'd be interesting to see what he brings to that, but I am very worried after the amount that was thrown in to Batman v Superman, that just a lot of it did not work and a lot of it did. So I am very much in the middle with this movie. I still think it was a good movie. It just wasn't absolutely fantastically great due to the problems it had. But like I said, I still enjoyed it for what it was, and I am hoping that the Blu-ray cut, which is going to be over 3 hours long and rated R or 15 here in the UK, is going to be better. And from some of the deleted stuff I've heard them talking about, I have every faith it will be. So feel free to comment below and tell me what your thoughts are on Batman v Superman. You can go as spoilerific as you like. And if you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button. I do make new videos as often as I can. And thanks for watching this, guys. And I do have a little something to say before we wrap the video up. And that is, for the rest of the week, I am going to be taking a bit of a break from the channel, because I have been doing videos quite regularly in rotation, unless there is something big that hits, like whether it be news or a movie that comes out that is getting a lot of buzz, that I will review when I get the chance. But so far this week seems pretty quiet, so apart from this video here, you're not going to see a lot of me around the channel here this week. But the channel is not dead by any means. I will be coming back more refreshed next week with my review of The Huntsman Winter's War. So feel free to subscribe again if you are new to my channel. And as always, guys, I shall see you all on the next one, and take care.